Hola, buenos dias, ¿qué tal? Hello and welcome to Packstone Travel Channel. Today is the time for travel hacks on Mexico, especially on Mexico City. So what do you need to consider before traveling to Mexico? Here we go. What to take in your bags to Mexico? Well, it totally depends on the region where you're traveling to. Mexico is a gigantic country, and you have from the Caribbean coast a very humid, very tropical climate, and in the northern states you have a very deserty, hot and dry zone, and in the Pacific areas you have a bit chilled, a very cool zone, also in the mountain areas. So it depends where you're traveling to. I personally travel to Mexico City, which is has an altitude about 2,300 meters, which is in feet about 7,000 feet, I suppose. And yes, it's not super hot. It's a bit, let's say, very pleasant between 24 to 27 degrees. But at nighttime it can get quite cool and chilly, so take some jacket with you. And for the national parks, and if you want to do some day trips and hiking and pyramids and whatever, don't forget your hiking shoes or sneakers, which are comfortable. And yeah. Flights to Mexico. Well, I'm based in Central Europe, so I took a very good fare, very spontaneous with Iberia, which was only, let's say, $550 or euros, and I had to fly through Madrid. So the intercontinental flight in Europe to Madrid with Iberia was excellent. The crew was motivated, young, dynamic, and positive, and warm-hearted, and the food and the drinks on board were good. But the long-haul flight was very different. So I flew 3 times with Iberia to Peru, to Colombia, and to Mexico. And on all flights, the crew on the long-haul flight were a nightmare. They were very distant, not warm-hearted whatsoever, quite snobby, quite arrogant, and totally ignorant to the wishes of the passengers. And the Mexico flight was even the peak. I haven't seen the crew for almost 10 hours during the entire flight. After takeoff, we got a tiny meal, which was also not so good. And yeah, you had to beg for water during the entire flight. You had to go back to the galley. They didn't go around the cabin in 10 hours, not even one time, to serve water, apple juice, or whatever. And yeah, they were quite even annoyed when you asked them, can you give me some more water? No, you can only have this amount of water. And I could have purchased it with money, no problem. But that was not the issue. They were just too lazy, all entire flights. Sorry to say that. Intercontinental Europe flights with Iberia, excellent. Long haul, a nightmare. And other choices are going through North America. Maybe you have a hassle with the customs and immigration in the US if you're coming from Europe to South America. Some people tell me, I don't know. And but the other choices maybe better would be maybe Air France through Paris, or British Airways through London, or the Lufthansa from Frankfurt is flying direct to Mexico City, or other mainland European carriers. So, and the distance to Mexico City is about 10,800 kilometers. Flight time 11 hours 40, 12 hours 40, depending on the winds on the Atlantic. And time difference is -6 to -7 hours to European Central Greenwich time. Immigration. So you can travel with any passport to Mexico. You double check with your local embassy and the foreign ministry of your country if you need a visa for your specific passport. But as a European citizen of the European Union, I didn't need any visa, and so I was allowed to stay on a tourist entry up to 180 days. But just listen carefully to this information. Your specific immigration officer at the border, in my case it was Mexico City Airport, and so every custom agent, immigration officer decides that individually when you have to leave the country. So they give you a stamp and then exit date where you have to exit Mexico. So you cannot always trust on the 180 days. They can give you also only 30 days or 90 days. That depends on the immigration officer. So double check your stamp on your passport, how much time you have available available. And the immigration was quite strict, similar to the ones in the US or in Israel. And so they will ask you questions. What are you doing in Mexico? What is the purpose of your travel? And they're quite tough and not unfriendly, but very professional. But yeah, very strict, and they want to see some evidence also that you're not part of a criminal thing going on in Mexico. And so you should always carry your hotel voucher, your flight, printed out your flight schedule, and prove that you're on a touristic purpose in Mexico City. The currency is the Mexican peso, and at the moment, I just checked, the €1 or $1 is 18.84 Mexican pesos. And you can pay more or less everywhere in Mexico City with the credit card. And there are ATM machines everywhere. Just watch out while you withdraw some cash that you're alone, and that I would recommend you to withdraw cash during daytime. Getting around in Mexico City. Well, after arrival at the international airport in Mexico City, I chose, it was a very long day, I chose the most secure thing. I took a registered cab from a specific office at the exit of the Mexico City airport. And I got in a really huge SUV Jeep with a very nice driver, English spoken, and but it was quite expensive if you compare it to the Uber fares, what you have available. So I think I paid around $23 to $25 to the central area in Condensa. And of course, you have Uber available, so which is a good thing. If never go with an unregistered taxi, so go with the official taxis or with the Uber. So then you're on the safe side. And there's, of course, the underground. The metro is very well done in Mexico City. You can go anywhere with the metro. They have a very large metro system. You can go anywhere in the metropolitan area of Mexico City with the underground. Just double check the area where you're going to in the central areas like Condensa, Juarez, Polanco, Roma. There's no security issue. It's very well protected. But of course, there can be pickpocketers everywhere, also in Europe. So be a little bit on the safe side. I would recommend you during daytime, no problem going with the underground to the safe areas. And maybe at nighttime, I would recommend to take an Uber, for example, or a registered taxi to be on the safe side. Sightseeing in Mexico City. So what's what to see and what's not? What are the highlights? I only had 5.5 days available in Mexico City. That was my entire time frame in my visit to Mexico. And I was only based in Mexico City. So what did I do? My absolute favorite was the Museum of Anthropology. Museo de Antropologia, I think is pronounced. And it's a museum from the 1960s. The design of the museum is just amazing. The most beautiful museum I've ever been to. Honestly, it's you have to spend a full day there, or maybe minimum 3-4 hours. And the museum looks like a set of a James Bond movie from the 60s with that Art Deco design, and with a waterfall coming from the rooftop with these cool window blinds, and so cool. Absolute a must. Museum of Anthropology, you have to go there. And then Mexico City is a very vibrant cultural city, and there are so many museums, like 50 museums you can visit. But one of the tops are also the Museum Jumex and Sumaya. I think there is entrance free also, but you have long lines to stand in. It's in the district of Polanco. And there's the Templo Mayor. This is the beginning of the Mexico City cultural a few thousand years ago already. And And there in that area, in the central area, you have the Cathedral of Mexico City with that gigantic flag of Mexico, which is, I don't know, 50, 60 meters high. And I think is one of the biggest flags in the world, or maybe the biggest flag in the world. And on this gigantic square, the central square where the cathedral is, there was also the place where the James Bond movie Spectre was shot, with that helicopter scene. And on the festival of the Dia del Muertos, the Day of the Death, that was a big thing in Mexico. What else to see in Mexico City? Apart from the Museum of Anthropology, there's the Frida Kahlo Museum. I've not been to the museum. I'm not such a gigantic Frida Kahlo fan, but there's a nice exhibit museum as well, where you can see her artwork and also the artwork of her husband, who's also super famous. At the moment, I just forgot his name, sorry. And it's next to the Palace of the Arts, Palacio del Bellas Artes, I think it's called. It looks like an opera house. And yeah, that's also worth going to. Also, the House of Tiles is very popular. I just had a look from outside. In the central hall is very beautiful. And it has this kind of azulejos, I think these Portuguese tiles from the, I think, Spanish colonial times left in that building. It looks very beautiful. And what else? If you want to have a look from above, like you can go to Sky Bar or something, or you go to the, it's called Mirador Torre Latino. It's one of the, it used to be the highest skyscraper of Latin America in the 60s. It is 139 meters high, which is about, let's say, 450 feet high. It has 44 floors, and on top of it there's an observation deck, and you can have a beautiful view on the city. I think the entrance fee is around $10-11 euros whatsoever. One insider from my perspective as a frequent flyer, what I do is I usually book always a free walking tour in the city I travel to. For example, this concept of free walking tours, I personally like that very much. I've done that in like 30, 40 countries already. And it's like the concept is you have a tour guide, which is mostly a student, well educated, probably a historical student of the country, or somebody else who is really interested to promote their own country, their own city to you. And the concept is like everybody can join in. You just have to register. There's no fee. But at the end of the tour, you decide what you give to the tour guide. That means on the other hand that the tour guide or tour girl, whatever, needs to perform. They really need to be motivated, and and you pay for the service what you get. That means, like, for example, if you have a tour group about 30 people, and if everybody's super happy, greetings to Pablo in Bogota, by the way, he did the best walking tour ever. And most likely everybody gives like $15 to $20, and that means he has a day fee of let's say $400, $600 to make a really good performance. But if they're doing a bad job, of course you don't give so much tip. You only give like $5 or less if they're doing a bad job. But the good thing is about this concept is that it brings new job opportunities, and also that people are passionate about their job, what they're doing. And the good thing is also you have very international groups. I always do that on the first or second day of my arrival. I do this free walking tours if I'm traveling alone, to meet also people from all over the globe and to do some stuff also together. For example, I met some nice guys from Singapore there, from Pakistan, from Europe, and we were a really cool crowd there. And we did also organize a day tour to the pyramids as well. The best areas in Mexico City. So I think before I went, I booked a hotel in the green zone. The green zone means like that's the safe central areas of Mexico City. The good areas where the security level is very good is of course, the Polanco, which is like the Beverly Hills of Mexico City, where you have the large money and all the villas and all the high-end stores like Chanel, Armani, Hugo Boss, and Mercedes or whatever. And then you have, I personally stayed in Condensa, bordering Roma, Condensa district, Roma district, and Juarez district are also fine. So I think between these 4 districts, Polanco, Condensa, Juarez, and Roma, you should pick your hotel to be on the safe side. I experienced the security being quite good. On every corner you have police or military police who is taking checking the surrounding and that everything is fine. And there are surveillance cameras everywhere and also in the subway. So yeah. Crime rate. Well, that's a difficult subject to answer. I personally felt fine in Mexico City. I was mostly touring around the central areas of Juarez, Polanco, Condensa, Roma, and I did day trips to the Aztec pyramids of Teotihuacan. Bad, cannot pronounce it, and to the Guadeloupe Basilica, to that famous Latin church, and I mostly felt secure. If you're a frequent traveler, I think you get the vibe if you're in a good area or not, and have a bit of a look around you. Somebody's following you or some gang, or secure your stuff, your wallets on a safe thing. And like in the subway, the Mexicans always wear their rucksack on the belly that they have total control over, that nobody grabs into the bags, for example. But more or less, I felt quite safe in Mexico City. At nighttime, I took Uber. During daytime, I took the underground. There was no issue. I felt didn't have any weird situations whatsoever. But I cannot say Mexico is a safe country or unsafe. So I think the truth is somewhere in between. It totally depends on the area. As the foreign ministry states, like the areas bordering the US, they're quite unsafe and high murder rates. But if you're like in Mexico City or in the Yucatan area where a lot of tourism is taking place, there you should be fine. But and the district of Jalisco should be a little bit tense, and Acapulco should be a little bit difficult, what I heard so far. But double check with your local Mexican embassy and check some travel logs before you go. And if you want to see for yourself if Mexico City is something worth going to, have a look at my travel episode on Mexico. It's called Why Travel to Mexico City. I have 2 episodes. They are linked above me and or in the video description below. And please don't forget to subscribe my channel. You would make my day, and muchas gracias. And yes, that would be an appreciation of my work and my effort I do for you guys to make your travel as pleasant as possible. Language. Of course, it's Spanish in Mexico. It's very useful to know some Spanish. I personally know Spanish, not very good, but the basics I can communicate and I understand quite well, and it's very useful. So, and not everybody is English spoken. So in Mexico City, I was quite surprised that hardly no one spoke English. Maybe it's different in other states, probably Yucatan and the territories closer to the US are different, but don't be ignorant, learn some Spanish, learn some at least 20 words, for example, hello. It always opens the door, like hello, buenos dias, ¿qué tal, how are you, hola, thank you, and the regular words, or where's the bathroom, donde está el baño, or something like that. It will be appreciated. And one specific thing I experienced in Mexico City was that the term like gringo what was used in Spanish, because I understand it, was mostly related to the United States citizen. I had the feeling that they were not so extremely welcome when I talked to Mexicans and they realized that I'm from Europe. I have been treated differently. I've been treated much nicer than my fellow Americans. But this is not a political channel. This is don't make any comments on that, please. This is just my personal experience, and I experienced the Mexican to be at the beginning a little bit distant, but once you open up and you use your Spanish, they are also very warm-hearted and really fun, really energetic people. Really fun to be with. Movies. So I'm coming from the movie industry, so movies are always important to me, and sometimes also the reason why I travel to some places. And I would recommend you to see 3 movies before you travel to Mexico. One is called Babel. It's an art house movie from Iñárritu director with Brad Pitt, and it's an excellent movie. You get really the nice Mexican vibe atmosphere. And the second movie is also an art house movie which won 1 or 2 Oscars at least, I think. It's called Roma, not the capital in Italy, but the district in Mexico City. And you can see also in my episode here in the link below above me, there I went to that movie location where the movie Roma was shot, in that district, Roma of Mexico City. It played as a black and white movie, and it's about a nanny in the old times in Mexico City. And the third movie, of course, everybody knows it, is James Bond, 007, with Spectre with Daniel Craig. It was also shot in Mexico City at the main square at the cathedral where the big Mexico flag is. This is where the helicopter scenes were shot when James Bond went down and he entered the parade of the Dia de las Muertes, the Day of the Dead, and which is always a big celebration in Mexico. Day trips. So I would recommend 2 day trips, which I did. For example, is a day trip, or let's say 4 or 5 hour trip, was to visit the church, the biggest church of all Latin America, which can host, I think, 20,000-30,000 pilgrims, and it's called Basilica Guadeloupe. You can reach it with the underground from Mexico City Center, and it's very beautiful, and you need at least 3-4 hours to see all the places there. It's gigantic, and you climb the mountain and you have an awesome view over Mexico City. And what else? The second day trip I did was to the Aztec pyramids of Teotihuacan. Sorry, I cannot pronounce this word. And it's on a high, I think it's a 1.5-2 hour ride with a bus. I did an organized tour, a day tour, and it's a gigantic area. You need 4 or 5 hours to spend with a tourist guide there. It's on a very high altitude from my perspective as a mainland zero level person. It's on 2,600, 2,700 meters. So if you're walking around the pyramids and if you're climbing up the stairs there, you can really feel that you have a lower percentage of oxygen there. And just keep it slow and take some sunblock with you as well. And just enjoy it. It's beautiful. Shopping. There are a few shopping malls in Mexico City. I didn't do too much shopping in Mexico City, to be honest, but I have seen a few malls in Polanco, next to the museums of Jumex and Sumaya. In Polanco, you can do high-end shopping with all these international labels. It's not super cheap, but you have all the varieties of food courts and from Apple Store to Armani, Chanel clothing, whatever, is all available. And but you can do also decent shopping in the central areas. For example, I personally enjoyed very much going to the fruit and vegetable market in Juarez. It's called Juarez Market. You have also food courts available with like local music and locals being there. It's very authentic. I enjoyed it very much. So check out Juarez Market if you want to get a real cool, authentic food experience there. In case you want to get a haircut, I personally like that during traveling to like start the first day with a haircut and to have that fresh feeling into your vacation. And I can recommend you the Barber's Spa next to the Angel of Independence Square. That is an excellent hairdresser for men and women. One insider advice from my side. I did, let's say, 4 days of constant walking in the city, like 25, 30 kilometers a day. And so one day I was so exhausted, I wanted to take a half day off and wanted to go to a spa or a massage or whatever. And then I discovered a place in Condensa. It was the Royal Hotel, a 4-star hotel, which is quite high. And on top of it, there's an infinity pool. So you don't need to be a guest of the hotel, just register at the reception and ask for a day pass. And you can access the top floor with the infinity pool and the bar and the restaurant. You need to consume about $25 to $30, but there's no fee. So the fee itself is that you need to consume something in a value of $25 to $30. So check it out, Royal Reforma Hotel, and you have an excellent view. Departure from Mexico. So if you have to say goodbye to Mexico, you have to go to an international airport in Mexico City. And well, the metropolitan area of Mexico City has 21 million inhabitants. So there's always traffic, and especially during rush hour, the traffic is massive. So have enough time on your hands. So try to be at the airport minimum 3 hours before for a long haul flight, because you never know what happens with the traffic and you don't want to be stressed out. And there's enough things to do at the airport. Some shopping, and there are some bars, some restaurants, and smoking is not permitted, but there are some smoking lounges where you need to pay an entrance fee. So for the smokers before long haul, you have to use the smoking lounges and you need to pay an entrance fee. I don't know at the moment how much it was, but let's say $7, $9, and you get a free drink and Wi-Fi access included. My personal favorites were in Mexico. Number one, why travel to Mexico? I loved the energy in Mexico. It's so vibrant, energetic, positive, loud, and exotic, and colorful, and flavorful. And I love the food. The food was just amazing. I'm not from the US. I don't have that big selection of Mexican or South American food here in Europe. So I only know the enchiladas and the burritos and the tacos. But there's so much more to the Mexican cuisine. It's amazing. Like, for example, I started my day always going to La Delicias de mi mamá in Condencia. It's a very basic breakfast place, and I tried chilaquiles. It's a breakfast thing with like nachos with some salsa and some eggs on top of it, various combinations. It was super good. And I don't know where to start. You check out some Mexican food blogs and check out the best places in Mexico City. The food's just a dream come true. It's just amazing. And one fun thing is not to forget, for drink, try to go to a place where you can get a cholita. I discovered that through a different blog, and it's a very fun thing. You have a beer. It's a kind of a lazy Mexican evening thing. So you want to have drinks, but you don't want to separate your day in like going to the restaurant afterwards to the bar. So you make a joint venture. So some creative guys just created the cholita. It's a big beer, and on top of it there is your dish. That means like you have like a salad on top of the beer, or some prawns, or some meat, or some rice, or like a dessert. You have like a chocolate cake or some gummy bears, and it's quite fun. You drink the beer and then you chew on the food in the same time. It's quite fun. And not super tasty all of the time, but it's a cool thing. Just try it. Now it's time to say hasta luego, Mexico, and thank you so much for your hospitality, Mexico. It was a very lovely travel. I met so many warm-hearted people in your country, and I would really love to visit you again. And yes, and for you guys who watched this travel hack, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You would make my day, and this would be a sign of appreciating my work as well. And yeah, don't forget to watch the full episodes on Mexico City during my travel, that you can get the vibe of Mexico and feel the energy. Okay, hasta luego, guys.